Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Like always, I hope you're all doing great today. Yesterday I was practicing this flight and something quite interesting happened. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. So basically, I was on my way to Grand Canyon National Park Airport, and the airport we are flying to in this video. The whole flight was pretty uneventful and I was on final approach for runway 03 when I received a message from the aircraft saying the fuel was getting a bit low. Since I already had the runway in sight and the airplane was pretty much fully configured, I didn't really pay that much attention. I just figured I could still make it to the runway before we ran out of fuel. But a couple of moments later, engine number 2 shut down, and I immediately remembered the fuel message. So at that point, I was expecting the other engine to shut down as well. And in a little panic and just in the heat of the moment, I decided to retract the landing gear to minimize the drag in case engine 1 failed as well. But luckily that didn't happen, and the engine only shut down when I was already above the threshold of the runway. But I did forget to extend the landing gear again, so when I was landing I expected to hear the wheels touch the ground at any moment, but the aircraft just kept getting lower and lower to the ground until I heard a metal scraping noise. And that's when it hit me that I forgot about the gear. So yeah, the result, let me show you real quick. This here is how the aircraft ended up on the runway. As you can see, no wheels. So yeah, luckily all of the passengers got away unscathed, but yeah, it would have been even better if I hadn't retracted the gear out of fear of not reaching the runway. But oh well, it was still a quite nice and funny experience, and one of my very few spontaneous accidents where I actually screwed up. Because most of the time when I crash an aircraft it's intentional, but this time it was actually a mistake of mine, so yeah. The reason why we ran out of fuel, by the way, is because this version of the aircraft burns 38% more fuel than its real-life counterpart. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when flying this bird. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the flight deck and fly to Grand Canyon, shall we? But first I'll show you the flight plan real quick. So at the moment we are parked at the ramp at Jackson Hole Airport. And we are going to fly to the Grand Canyon Resort right here. It's not a very long flight, just 1.5 hour flight time. But the views during the flight are absolutely amazing. We will also pass Salt Lake City during the flight, which will give you some nice views of the lake and the city as well. That is if the weather is nice above Salt Lake City, but I think it is. The weather here at Jackson Hole is quite nice. Sky clear is below 12,000 feet, more than 10 nautical miles of visibility. Wind is 20 degrees at 6, with a pressure of 0.32 inches in mercury, I think that is. The temperature is a little bit cold, minus 3.9 degrees Celsius. So we might have to use some anti-ice, but I don't think so because there's no clouds in the vicinity, which means no moisture. So we'll see about that, but yeah. According to SimBrief, we only need to take 3,000 pounds of fuel. But yeah, as I said, this aircraft burns more fuel than in real life. So what I did is I put way more fuel in than I actually needed to. But yeah, here we are inside the flight deck of the beautiful Cessna Citation CJ4. That's the aircraft that we're flying today. I forgot to mention that in my little anecdote. But yeah, it's quite a nice aircraft in my opinion. Very easy to start up. All you need to do is turn on the
Pause
battery,
system test.
and then
Okay.
turn on the avionics. And that's pretty much it. There are no fuel pumps, no hydraulics, no air conditioning that you need to worry about. The only thing you need to do is turn up the brightness of the displays if you want to. Turn on the navigation light. You don't need to worry about the passenger lights because they are in-up, as you can see. We don't need to worry about any of the engine stuff quite yet. So we'll go down to the FMC, position in it. As far as I know, this doesn't really do anything for you, but it's just a nice thing to fill in anyway. So we are at K-Jack. We'll put in the GPS position, and then we'll go to flight plan. We are taking this bird from K-Jack to KGCN, which is Grand Canyon National Park. Our flight number is my personal favorite, Joe713. There we go. Then we can go to departing and arriving. Departing, we are departing from runway 01. And we are not going to use any departure for this flight. Activate that. We are just going direct to Kikni. Like so. Then after that we are going direct to BPI. And it should be this one right here. After that we are going we should fly via the Juliet 713 airway. But airways don't really work in this sim. So I'm just gonna put in the last waypoint, which is TCH. And I might have to look up the coordinates of this this waypoint. Okay, so the coordinates are 40 degrees 51 minutes north and 111 degrees and 58 minutes west. So that is probably this one. And after TCH we are going direct to Corker. There we go. And then it automatically put in the airway for us, the J11 airway. So that's good. And then back to the arriving page, we are flying the ILS for runway 03. That is the right transition, so that's good. We can activate that. I have no idea how to step through the flight plan, so I'm just gonna assume it's all set correctly. So yeah, the FMC is all set up. That's pretty much the only thing that you need to do with it. Yeah, you could take a look at the performance page, but the V-speeds are always the same no matter what your aircraft weight is, so I'm just not gonna bother with filling any of this in. So that's good. What I am going to do is I'm gonna set the altimeter for this airport, which like I said was 3037. There we go. If you're not sure if the barometric pressure is actually correct, you can check it by just looking at the altimeter, and if it displays the elevation of the airport, you have the right altimeter setting. In this case, the airport is, let me see, 6,451 feet above sea level. So as you can see, quite close. Not spot on, but you know, it's not really that important. So yeah, that setup, we can turn on the flight director. After departure, we're just gonna accelerate to 250 knots, or 240 maybe. And we can engage nav mode, which you see now, LNAV1 is engaged. And once we reach 240 knots, we'll engage flight change mode. So yeah, that's all we need to do to set up this aircraft. So we can now turn on the beacon light. And we can open the engine covers. And we'll just make sure that everything around the aircraft is clear. Except for that guy it is, but I think he's far enough from the engine, so we are good. So let's start engine number 2. As you can see, the N2 percentage is already rising. At 20% we'll introduce the fuel. There we go. Now you should see a rise in N1 as well as the ITT. There we go. Oil temperature and oil pressure are all rising. So there we go, the engine has stabilized at 20.4 N1. Let's make it 2 good engines. So there we go. Now we only have one message on the CAS display, which is the parking brake. And it seems like we have 2 good engines. So flaps can go to takeoff. As you can see, they are extended. We can trim up quite a bit. Somewhere around there should be good. Everything else is set where it should be. Taxi lights can go on. We can close the engine covers again. So yeah, to get to a runway 01, we need to make a right turn here and then a left turn. And we taxi all the way to the end of the runway. So that's what we'll do. Release the parking brake. Make sure we don't hit that poor ground worker. Barely missed him there. So yeah, we are now exiting the non-movement area, I guess. This aircraft is quite difficult to taxi, even though it's a pretty small aircraft. But yeah, it seems that if you go any faster than 10 knots, it just doesn't want to turn. So yeah, in the meantime we can also do a quick flight control check to make sure they are all free and correct, which they are. So, as you can see, quite a short taxi. We've already reached the threshold of the runway. This is quite a nice view with all of the mountains in the background. So let's stop here for a second.
Oral warning, okay.
Great to hear. So landing lights, strobe lights can all go on. Taxi light doesn't need to stay on. Flaps are set. Speed brakes are retracted. All the lights are set. Autopilot is set. Flight plan. Let's see real quickly. After departure, we will probably make a right turn, I guess. Or you know what? We'll make it a left turn. And at Kikni, we need to be above 15,000 feet. Oh yeah, that's something I forgot. I'm going to set the altitude, or cruising altitude rather. For this flight, it is 41,000 feet. I've never flown higher than that in any aircraft, so that's quite nice. So now everything should be set. Release the parking brake. Clear to the left. And clear to the right as far as I can see. We overshot the center line a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna start my clock. Here we go, guys. This aircraft really accelerates fast. There we go, we already passed 80 knots. 100 knots. V1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Rate, sorry. Okay, the flaps can go up now. We need to use quite a lot of trim. And we'll also start to make our left turn now. Oh yeah. And we can reduce the climb power. Or engine power to climb, I mean. Okay, I hope we won't hit those mountains over there. Yeah, I think we're good. I'm still flying manually, by the way. It's quite a nice airplane to fly by hand, so... Okay, so we are just going to fly direct to Kikni. And I'm going to engage the autopilot. Direct Kikni, activate. So the landing lights can also go off now. And we should be able to accelerate to our climb speeds of about, I would say, 280 knots. And we've reached 18,000 feet. Barometric pressure can go to standard. So guys, we are about to reach our cruising altitude of flight level 410. There it is right there. I am going to decrease the thrust quite a bit to avoid getting an overspeed warning like the one you heard just there. Just then, I mean. This aircraft does not need a lot of thrust to overspeed, that's for sure. At the moment I'm only at 50%, 57 to be exact. But yeah, we've just crossed the BPI VOR and the aircraft is now trying to intercept the magenta line. Seems like it found it. So yeah, we are now on our way to the Grand Canyon Resort. I will cut the video here. So for now, be sure to grab a snack and enjoy the views I've got in store for you. And I'll see you guys at the top of descent. So see you then. So guys, welcome back to the flight deck. We are only 46 nautical miles from the Corker waypoint and we are about to start our descent towards, I believe it is 9,000 feet. So I'm a little bit concerned about the fuel at the moment, because as you can see we only have around 900 pounds in each tank, and right now the fuel flow is 1300 pounds for each engine, so each tank, which means we have less than an hour to get to the airport. Now the flight should take around 20 minutes or so, maybe a bit longer, so hopefully we'll be good. And during the descent I'm also going to reduce the throttle obviously, and the fuel flow will then be much lower, but still 900 pounds is not really a lot to work with, I think. So yeah, we'll see about this. Now I am going to start the descent right around now. So we are descending to 9,000 feet. I'm going to use vertical speed mode. And we're gonna descend somewhere around there. And I can now
Overspeed.
reduce the
Overspeed.
throttle.
Overspeed. Overspeed. Overspeed.
As you can see now the fuel flow is at 520 pounds per hour. I started the descent a little bit earlier than yesterday, because during that flight I had to extend my flight plan a little bit, because otherwise we weren't going to make it to our altitude on time. And there we have the Grand Canyon. Looks absolutely great. So let's now take a look at the weather and also the approach that we're going to fly. So the weather at the Grand Canyon Airport is quite good. No clouds or broken clouds at 12,000 feet. Good visibility, winds are calm, pressure of 3032, and a temperature of 6.7 degrees with a dew point of -5. So that all sounds great. And as for the approach, our transition was Amare, and at Carms we need to be at 9,000 feet. After that we are going to descend to 8,200 feet to Happily, and there we will intercept the ILS for runway 03. The frequency is 108.9. And that frequency is already plugged in there, so that's good. So yeah, the minimum altitude today is 239 feet. We are not really going to bother with that. Transition altitude is, or transition level is flight level 180, like always in America. And yeah, after landing, considering we still have enough fuel to taxi to the gate or ramp area, we will vacate the runway either via Echo or Charlie, probably. So yeah, that's everything you need to know for the arrival and approach. We're not flying an arrival because there isn't any arrival for this airport. Look at these views. Absolutely stunning. So I don't know if we'll reach our altitude restriction in time, because we're quite close to the airport now. We might be able to see it now. If I had to guess, I would probably say that that's the airport right there, but I'm not quite sure. So there we have the airport right there. Now it's clearly visible. Fuel is still okay. We still have 800 pounds in each tank. I don't know about this altitude restriction. I might increase the descent rate just a little bit more. $18,000 feet, so the altimeter was 3033. I think I'm gonna have to extend this down a little, the flight plan a little bit more. So we'll make a right turn, and once we've lost some more altitude, we'll turn back. Oh yeah, we also need to decelerate to 250 knots now, 240. Now I'm going to increase or decrease the rate of descent a little bit to allow the aircraft to decelerate. And now we should be able to turn back towards the airport. We've lost quite some altitude. Landing lights can go back on now. How's the fuel doing? Still 800 pounds, that's good. We overshot the runway centerline quite a lot. That's okay. Let's start slowing down a little bit as well to 190 knots, let's say. And let's also keep this descent going. Airport in sight. Let's go direct to never mind, it doesn't have the waypoint in there. So I'm just gonna take manual control of the aircraft now. We overshot the runway a bit there. I'm gonna extend the
Landing
first notch of
Landing
flaps
gear.
and also
Landing gear.
the flaps, the landing gear, sorry. So taxi lights can go on now. Here we go. We are about to intercept the glide slope, final notch of flaps. We are nice and stable. Checked, gear is down. Everything is still looking great. We are on the glide slope and on the localizer. Engines are still running, so that's good. Okay, we'll start the flare. And we are down. Speed brakes out. Decelerating. So our next taxiway is taxiway Charlie, which we'll use to vacate the runway. That was quite a nice landing, I think. Landing lights and strobe lights, they can go back off. I can also stop my clock now. The flight took 1 hour and 27 minutes and 40 seconds. A bit shorter than what SimBrief told us, I think. Okay, so we don't need a taxi light either now. We can just park at some random spot. No, we don't want to stop completely, obviously. There we go. There we go, that's good enough, I think. Parking brake is set. And we can turn off the engines. So, welcome everyone to Grand Canyon National Park Airport. I hope you enjoyed this flight as much as I did. Yeah. If the aircraft is done beeping at us, we can turn off the beacon light, nav light as well, and then the avionics and battery switch can go off as well. And now the aircraft is back in the state where we took off. The cold and dark state, that is. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. That's gonna wrap it up for today. If you liked it, definitely be sure to subscribe and hit the like button below. If you have any questions related to my channel or aviation in general, you can always ask them down in the comment section below. I would also like to tell you guys that I have an Instagram account where I post nice screenshots of this sim almost every day. So if you haven't already, definitely go check that out and maybe follow me. So yeah, for now that's going to be it for today's video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.